Catherine Connolly's been waiting quite a while now, so we're going to let her have a few words as well, because she's been fighting on this issue for a long time in Galway.
Thank you very much. I'm here for one reason alone, and that's to support the demand to call for an emergency. Since the day I was elected, I've repeatedly highlighted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I've repeatedly highlighted the housing emergency. I'll make a number of very quick points. The government's policy is simply the private market will provide. The private market has utterly caused the problem, and yet they're putting millions into the private market through the housing assistance payment. When you go on the housing assistance payment, the household is taken off the waiting list. They have magically reduced the waiting list from 4,720 households. Just let me repeat that. That's households. That's about 13 or 14,000 people waiting for a house since 2002. That's 17 years this year. I know one particular household, in 17 years they've never been offered a house. That list magically is now 3,500 households because they simply have taken the names off the list to go on the HAP payment. Let me make a second point. In this city, we have acres of land zoned residential. We bought it at an extraordinary high price to plan forward to build houses. Since 2009, this City Council, through no fault of its own, hasn't built one single house because each government has suspended funding for the direct construction of social housing. Number 3, they're planning a road that will not go up in the near future. As a result of that road, 2/3 of 18 hectares of residential zone land bought at the highest time in the market is now frozen, and not one single house will be built on 2/3 of 18 hectares of land.
Disgraceful.
This is a government that's bereft of vision except for the private market. It's inevitable that we will have a housing crisis if we don't fund public housing, not social housing, public housing for those that are on welfare, those that are working, so that there is a choice in the market for those that want to go private and those that want a public house. Without that commitment from the government, we will continue to have a housing crisis forever ad nauseum, and the only one benefiting from this are the landlord class. Again, I'd say any of you here would take the opportunity, because it is government policy to rely on the landlords, and in fact they're not to blame, it's government policy. So once again, I want to thank you. We do need people to protest on the ground, and you might include in that our public health system as well, because it's all part of the same thing. Excellent. Where we're privatising absolutely everything and creating crisis after crisis as if this is inevitable, when it's all part of the deliberate policy of this government, the last government, and going back to Fianna Fáil and the PD government. And I make absolutely no apology for saying that. And this City Council here has been starved of funding, and I'll finish by repeating what Suzanne has said. This year there is a plan to build 14 houses. 14 houses in a city where people are waiting from 2002. By the year 2020, if we're lucky, they will have built 250 houses. That's from the word of the manager less than 2 weeks ago. 250
and how
houses.
is they don't open the three
There
bungalows?
There are 40, on official figures, 40 empty houses in this city at any given time. That in itself is a scandal, but it's a tiny fraction of the houses that we need to build. So I won't take any more of your time. There are Mila Mahiga and Tommy Harva Sosta, Lubber, Asovik, Alovikelia, Livsha. There are Mila Mahiga.
Thanks, Catherine.